Hello, friends and family. Welcome to the Love, Art and Inspiration Show on Talker Community Radio. I'm here today and sharing space with my guest, which is Stephen Graham. But before I start the show, as always, for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, I'm just going to give you a little idea of what the show is about. So basically, I'm Amja. I am a London-based therapeutic art life coach. I'm a multidisciplinary artist, and I'm a founder of Amja Unabashedly, where love, art and inspiration empower. Now, much of my art is inspired by my passion for using the power of creative expression to explore and unpick themes that envelope social issues such as domestic abuse, racism, mental health, while simultaneously sharing messages of love, self-love, growth, and joy as a direction to manage life's challenges. On the show, on the Love, Art and Inspiration Show, it will either be myself or my co-host, Kami Love, and our guests share real-life art-infused stories with the hope of encouraging you, the listener, to let art be your becoming. Now, as always, I like to do a thank you before I start, and so this week's thank you is more around the power of failure. I've been having conversations around this while I was out earlier on in the week. For those of you that know, I'm an art consultant at Zari Gallery, and I happen to be sitting with a really lovely individual who is an amazing dancer, and she was actually speaking about the power of the word failure in both its high vibe and low vibe connotations. And she shared a story about a father that would ask his daughters every day how they failed today, as a way of encouraging them to try new things that made them uncomfortable, as a means to support their growth and personal development. So that's the theme for today, because failure, or the fear of failure, is the main reason why many creatives, whether you're an artist, visual artist, dancer, performer, musician, painter, all of the creative industries, one of the reasons is the fear is what keeps people stuck in a quicksand, where amazing ideas and concepts reside. They reside in this space of the fear. And hopefully, by understanding what failure is, or the power of failure, hopefully we'll get people to put their stuff out there, because there are so many amazing creatives. So that's my thank you. Now, I was going to do a quote. Originally, I was going to do a quote based on the top that I've got on, which is "Surviving to Thriving is the art of conscious awareness," which is part of my art piece Perception, as a way to understand how people can go from the place of surviving to actually thriving in life. However, I decided to change that because my guest had a part in their book. So the actual quote for today's show is, "The power of love creates motivation and is phenomenally known to result in an individual transforming." That is actually an original quote from my guest here. But before I go into that, my guest Stephen is a multidisciplinary artist, journalist, producer, visual artist, with a medical degree in sports rehabilitation, among so many other things. I couldn't even list how many things there are. But I wanted to do an intro of a song because I feel this probably encompasses much of what his book, Incarceration JA, is about. So I'm going to play this tune, and hopefully it will kind of set the speed for the show today.
Bad man life no nice, no pay the price. When you got jail, no bail. The judge said 30 years to life. He choked me like a knife. Brother, can't believe I saw it unfold. No parole. Me I go live and die in this place. Water run down my face. Now I go see my daughter, my baby mother. I feel loyal to my brother. Still now got my yard. Survive another day. Thank you, Lord. Cause prison never make for dog. Prison never make for dog.
DJ Frost Records. Cold-blooded murderer. Cold-blooded murderer. Me brother link me from prison and tell me say a floor in my sleep. Him tell me say a floor in my sleep. Him say one cellar tree man fed. Dirty water got.
You're listening to Talker Community Radio. Keep the community connected.
Him said China come here charge it. Him said China come here charge it. If you don't be with me they can me. So China come here charge it. Him said China come here charge it. Him said please no come here charge it. If you don't be with me they can me. So China come here trigger. Wishing a life he was a easy nigga. Yeah. Sunday evening him I eat him dinner. Family time while him liquor daughter teach him cigar. But again wear him shoes, run wear him shoes. Him and him friend them shoot up people barbecues. 7 o'clock prime time I him there on the news. Yellow tape on the avenue. No him a man. And I said China come here charge you. Him said China come here charge you. If you don't be with me they can me. So China come here charge you. Him said China come here charge you. Him said please no come here charge you. If you don't be with me they can me. So China come here charge you. Let me tell you about praise.
Okay, so I'm gonna submit. Okay, so I think that sets the speed. I thought there's a bit of poetry in there for you poetry lovers that like to listen in. There's powerful words in that. So without further ado, welcome Stephen Graham. Thank you so much for agreeing. I know it was a bit of a short notice one on Insta asking you to come on my show, but I'm really, really grateful that you decided to share space with me. So welcome.
Thank you for having me. I mean, seeing your own shows, I felt obliged to come because you give a beautiful energy. So
Thank you very much. That's nice to hear. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and my first one is, where are you from? I that's what I want to ask you. Where do you come from in terms of your birth and your heritage? So that's
my birth and my heritage. I
Yeah.
was born in London.
Yeah.
My heritage is very mixed still. Both my parents are Jamaican. My father was born in Jamaica,
Okay.
but he's actually not from Jamaica. My
Okay.
father's actually from Cuba.
Okay.
So his father was from Cuba.
Mhm.
So my father's a Cuban, Jamaican, and I don't know much about my father's family still, to be honest. My father's from Cuba originally. His father's from Cuba. He was born in Jamaica. My father spoke Spanish when he was a little boy growing up in Jamaica.
Okay.
Until he was a bigger. But my mum is mixed. She's mixing Jamaican, Syrian, and Indian.
Okay, so you're a very multi-mixed individual, which is
Yeah.
nice. I think there's many people from the diaspora that have got lots of other mixes in there, which is actually quite beautiful. Okay, so currently now, are you still in the London area? Where are you? Because I know based on a lot of the research that I've done, you've been quite around the world a lot of times, and you haven't always been here. So at the moment, if you don't want to give too much detail, where are you at the moment?
Northwest, based in Northwest.
You're still in Northwest, you're
Yeah,
still in the
still
Northwest
Northwest.
London. So you're representing, which is kind of the Chilcot community energy, because we're kind of Northwest. We're Northwest,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
even though we're
Northwest.
Wembley, but we're Northwest, which is really nice. Okay, so in recent times, many people know you for your superbly written book. Like, I'm not just saying this. This book was so well written. I'm somebody that writes. I read lots of books. For those of you who know, I'm always reading, always listening to audiobooks. When I tell you this book is absolutely superbly written, I could relate to the book on so many levels, because many of the places that you mentioned, both in the UK and Jamaica, I've actually been there. One of the things that was really quite striking is I actually got married in the church that's opposite the prison that you were speaking about. So some of the places that you were talking about, the different areas, there's parts that you're talking about in Spanish Town. You know, I've lived in Jamaica and I spent time in there, but I could also relate to parts where you spoke about different parts of London, Church Road, Kilburn. I used to live in Kilburn as well. It's funny how some of the blocks that you mentioned, I actually lived in one of those blocks. I never ever saw you, all the years that I was there. So that's interesting as well. But what I really wanted to ask you was, what was the main reason for you writing Incarcerated J.A., a self-reflective analysis of my life? What was the basis?
The main reason for me writing this book was really to share not just my. It was a good way for me to actually release myself as well from the traumas that I was going through, but also share my traumas with other people so people can also know they're not alone out here. Because I was a person, I never used to talk much about my feelings or how I felt about situations that I've been through. You know, and I always encourage people to talk, because we don't. A lot of us tend to not talk about our things we go through. So for me, it was like it was a way of freeing myself, but at the same time helping other individuals to find themselves as well and to free themselves so they can, you know, realize that they're not alone in this struggle in it out here. You know, because sometimes it can be very lonely when you're going through tribulations and trials. You know, your own traumas, your own pains. And people say, "Oh, we should talk to somebody," but it's not always so easy to talk. It's easy for people to say it, but the person who's actually living that experience, it's not always easy to talk about. You know, so it's something I want to encourage people. You know, using my strength to encourage people. Say, listen, You know, feel what I've been through. You understand? Not just read it, but feel what I've been through. And know that you're not out here alone if you're going through things. You know, find someone to talk to. If you and know that, you know what I mean. Have faith in yourself as well, and know that there's a God. You know what I'm saying? You can bring you through this thing still. You know.
I think it's really beautiful, actually. I mean, you know, people might want to read the book because of maybe the stories that you tell about your experience, what it was like being incarcerated in JA. But for me, personally, I think of Incarcerated JA as a multifaceted production, like with a main emphasis on actually love and spirituality. Would you agree or disagree with that?
Yeah. Love and spirituality, love, especially first of all, love for self. Learn to love yourself, you know. Learn to appreciate yourself, because a lot of people really don't really need to appreciate themselves. You know, because we don't really live in a society where it tells you about love for self and appreciate yourself. You know, and you kind of made to feel bad if you think about self too much. They say you're selfish, but really truly there's a very thin line between selfish and actually love yourself. You get me? In fact, there's a borderline, because I think it's important to really love yourself, because it's really important to love and appreciate who you are as an individual. And a lot of us don't understand how important that is. You get me? To bring out the best of yourself, you have to learn to love yourself first. I can't bring out the best of me without loving me.
It's interesting you say that, because I've got an art piece called A Heart to Hold, and it has a quote that goes, "Self-love is the precursor to your greatest love." And I talk about it so often because I didn't really understand what self-love was until I had to learn about that, to kind of go on a journey of discovery. So when I read your book, there was so much emphasis on self-love. There was so much emphasis on self. There was so much emphasis on respect. Within the book, I started to count how many times you used the word respect, and I decided to just stop, because it's all there throughout the book. You use it very often. There was a lot of respect for self, respect for others, but it was also about mainly respect for yourself in terms of how you were making choices around how you wanted to be a better, respectful person for yourself, because by respecting yourself, then it allowed you to respect other people, but for others to respect you as well.
Yeah, 100%.
So there's a common theme in the book.
I mean, that's important to learn to respect yourself. I mean, because as a youth group, I didn't have a lot of self-respect. You know, in a warped vision of life, I thought I did at certain points, but I didn't. I mean, you said you was from Kilburn, right? I was born in South Kilburn. What part of Kilburn from?
Me, I lived actually in Dickens House in Kilburn.
That's on South Kilburn Estate.
Yeah, South. I lived on South
So
Kilburn
that's
Estate for a little time.
that's where I actually was born and grown. But watching this then, I left because of the way I didn't actually understand myself, accept myself. I left that area at age of 1990. 1990 I left there and came back there in 94. And then 94 I left and I got in prison. 98, beginning of 98.
Okay.
So, as much as I was born in England, I didn't actually spend as much time of my teens in this country because of how much I didn't have the respect for myself. I was always involved in a lot of things that I shouldn't have been involved in.
So
if I knew myself better, I wouldn't have been involved. You get me?
Okay, so that probably explains why I lived in the area. Cause there's so many names and places within that book, but I'm like, I know that, I know this, I know that, but not ever coming across you. So when you talk about the timelines, I think I moved. So I had cousins that lived in South Kilburn that I used to visit, and then I actually lived there for a while, but I too was in and out from the UK and Canada, so within that period.
Your cousins are from South Kilburn, I know them.
Huh?
Your cousins are from South Kilburn, I know them.
Yeah, I'm not going to say their names probably live, but yeah.
There's nobody in South Kilburn that don't know me back in the days.
I didn't know you though.
Yeah, was you really out? Was you on the block? Was you out there?
I wasn't. I actually kept myself very much to myself.
You were out there, I wouldn't expect you to know me, but at the same time, a lot of girls did know me, so it's a good thing you didn't know me that time. Because, you know what I mean? I was that kind of person in the community. I was known, innit? I was known on the block. Like,
okay,
so
I was not around to be a part of that part of your life.
Smart move. Nah, no joking. I wasn't the best of person at that time. I was a good person, but I wasn't the best. I didn't know myself like I have today. I know myself, I love myself, and I really understand who I am. You know, on a serious note, I learned to really conduct myself and change the way I see life and perceive life. And I feel like that's important. Our perception of life is really important because we grew up in a society where, and in our environment, our home life, some of us have a very warped perception of life.
Definitely.
You know, we give a lot of attention and energy to things that are not as important as what we should do. Do you get me? Like, for family dynamics, I never used to give as much attention to certain situations. Or, you know, with my children, yes, but still gave a lot of, as much as I know as a youth growing up, I was a good father to my 2 little children at the time. I didn't myself kill them, but I was also very devoted, supportive to my friends. So I would sometimes make choices that would actually put, without me really looking deep on it, I would put my friends before.
Yeah, but that, not intentionally.
Not intentionally, but you get me? Like,
okay.
say for somebody, I might support somebody in regards to whatever they got to do, you know, or situations happen, I'm going to be there for somebody. But really, I should have been at home with my children and their mum, because that's important. Like, if I get locked up, then what happens to them? But again, the mind wasn't perceiving that. You get me? The misplaced loyalty. You get what I'm saying?
Misplaced,
and
I
then,
like that.
It's not
Misplaced
even
loyalty.
like comes with misplaced loyalty to my family life, my daughter, my son, daughter, and their mum. Also misplaced to my friends too, because some of the things that, you know, I may have to be supportive to them in. Was it really worth it? Do you get what I'm saying? I was like, think about back in the days, I was booted out of high school for £1. Literally £1. I told about my book. £1 got me kicked out of school. Now that's ridiculous. Like, we could have paid the boy back £1. We could have given him £10. You get me? We could have given more than £10. We could have given him £10 or whatever else on top of it. But the mindset, we decoded the way we decoded life. And I'll say decoded life. The way we decoded life, it wasn't. There was no rational. Like, the way we saw things, we didn't see things. A lot of us don't really see things properly when we're in the mindset we're in or when we're angry. So we need to take a step back sometimes and not get too quick to jump in, you know, jump on our emotions.
That's about
especially without emotional intelligence, because that time I wasn't emotional intelligent. You get me?
I think that's very powerful. I think one of the things I can definitely say, emotional intelligence is something that many people, we don't teach our young people in society the importance of what emotional intelligence does, how being emotionally intelligent allows you to make much more better choices in your life. So,
100%.
you know, to remove yourself from the situation, like everybody gets angry and it doesn't mean you're not supposed to feel your emotions, but you can actually look at them, stand back, and then rather than be reactive, be responsive, because when you respond you take the time to think about how you are going to do something.
And the precautions of what you do and how it affects, because it affects everything.
Definitely.
You know, when you're younger, or even them just younger, because there's grown up people, adults, even older than me and you, who still don't have that emotional intelligence.
Definitely, but it's something that's not taught.
Yeah, it's something that needs to be taught though.
But 100%, I think more, I mean, as for me in the type of fields that I work in, the work that I do outside of being a radio show host, my art, my public speaking events, I think more and more people are starting to talk about the emotions and how they feel, and how important it is to find those safe spaces to talk about how we're feeling, so that we have a better way. I mean, from my personal experience, I had to go into certain environments to really understand emotionally intelligence, how I was feeling about things. And I think by learning about your emotional intelligence, actually it allows you to not stay in a victimized place when unfortunate things happen in society. And that comes with the emotional intelligence.
100%.
Now, as we talk about the emotional intelligence, I wanted to ask you something, but before I do that, I want to play another song to kind of give an idea of what I really want to ask you, because hold on one second. I'm gonna play this song right here. Is it playing? You ready? Can you hear it? Here we go.
Stop. Fucking intro. Citizens rise. This ain't for the ignorant mind. Look at his eyes. Full of pain and victim inside. But shedding a tear. Feeling your fears. Isn't that vibes? Yet the suicide rate among men is still a surprise. If you cry because you said you ain't no bitch. You a bitch.
You're listening to Talkcore Community Radio, keeping the community connected.
Took it out on your people, especially ones that treat you with love. Look, it's okay to be vulnerable, cause you owe it to you. I know you don't know what to do, but you know that's the truth. I know you can't focus and that you coping by smoking your blues. I know you posting pics on your socials and hope that you're fool. Trust me, them demons you find it, we know they hoping you lose. You gotta open right through these things called feelings and go through your moves. To be a real man, you don't need no one to prove. Fuck who told this to you, cause boys do cry. Boys do cry. Boys do cry. Boys do cry.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Boys do cry.
I wanted to say that specifically, that boys do cry. As a mother of 4 amazing womb gems, one of which as a boy. I encourage him to not feel embarrassed to cry. It doesn't make him less of a man. In actual fact, I think it's important that men do have their safe spaces to show their feelings and emotions. And what I noticed in your book actually is there is a section which the buzzword at the moment is toxic masculinity, but for want of a better way of explaining it, there's a section in your book where you describe how you created, which I really think is so beautiful actually. I felt quite emotional when I read that bit. You provided a kind of safe space for some of the most prolific Jamaican gangsters to connect with their feelings and emotions. Like, how and why? What was the premise for that?
That was because I learned to love myself and start to make a change in myself, and I realized that most of us don't deal most of us don't deal with our emotions, we don't deal with our traumas, innit? And I realized I want a lot of respect in prison, innit? Like I would say that very openly, and there's no man can deny what I'm saying. I want a lot of respect both in Spanish Town and GP. And it wasn't just because of I would defend myself and none of that kind. It wasn't just because of badness, it's more because of how I dealt with people. I allowed people to feel and see themselves, express themselves and feel vulnerable, allow themselves to open up. So we'll talk about something like me and man them will sit down. I'm talking about some real dogs, you get me, like my Virgin School, man, some real top youths from some Mobile, some youths from out of town, Ardborough, Spanish Town, my Virgin RP team, Wayne Bones from Clans, top man them, you get me. And we were reasoning, we'd talk about the traumas we went through, like as youths, and but it's like I would open up myself and express to them certain things I've been through, and it kind of made them feel safe to talk about what they've been through in it, and we realised that a lot of us parallels in our lives. We may have the same trauma, that we had a similar situation we're going through, you know, but they felt safe to talk about them situations. Where before, it's always about button up and bad man on this and bad man on that, but you know, you're actually more stronger when you can actually express yourself and talk about your feelings. And this is what I did to them. I let them feel like, you know, we can talk about our problems, you know, and it's not, it doesn't make you weak. And everyone realised that we were similar, we're going through the same thing. And sometimes my big man's talking like, yo, but we don't know. And yeah, they sniffle, you know.
Yeah, because
it's good though, because man was feeling free in themselves. Yeah, they were feeling free to talk about it. So them things made me win enough respect from certain people. So I had friends from Southside, from all different places. Like when I was in prison, Spanish Town GP, especially when I was in GP, it was mad. And there's weird because Spanish had at that time Spanish had a lot of mob here and like Spanish Town man and Supper Town man, but when you talk kick GP, you have enough Town man and St. Thomas man, and you get me, and it allows certain top man to feel good when there's reasons. So I'm talking with them like Curlew from out east, and you get me, Dallas them from Rockford, and certain big man them, you get me, with just reasoning. And it was good, you get me. Even when one of my people them Stompish from Kirk on top man, it was reason as well, you get me. But he never stayed too much long, cause we never really spent much time with each other. There's a few times linking, cause he used to ask me to link in regular, but I didn't. But it's when I was reading certain people, they just felt cool to talk to me and open up. And I feel a lot of us, like I said, we don't express ourselves, and we're taught, or we feel like, especially when you claim to be a rude boy or even just a man at home, we're not really taught to deal with our emotions. You get me? And it's something that I didn't do it, and I didn't do it on purpose. Like I wanted to create nothing or nothing special. I was just being me in it, because I was learning to love me, and I learned to be emotional about myself, and learn to express my emotions and you know, feel myself and realize the traumas and things I was going through. And then by doing that, I had them answer me questions, me answer them questions. It was kind of like we was cancelling each other, but we don't call it like that. But it's like it's like
reasoning.
It's reasoning, but it's ghetto counselling. You get me?
Ghetto counselling.
Yeah, it's ghetto counselling. We were supporting each other and help each other. Then we start analysing back why you did this, and man's being in prison from he was 17, and you talk about why you did this, and man telling you. When you look at the story, man saying to you, oh, this happened to him, and that happened to his mum, or this, and then each one finds it. So everyone's talking and saying, oh, so that was the reason why he did that. So we're kind of working each other's situation. Most of us are doing things that we don't realise why we're doing it. You get me? Man saying to you, but you see your stepfather, I have the biggest problem. I'm like, I kind of knew that, but I didn't really know how deep. So
deep
so we were helping each other to you know, find our own problems, and I thought. It's a lot. It's enough of that we don't do in our community. We just, when we talk more time, a lot of us want to talk about things that we claim to be macho, whether it's streets or this or clothes or gal or what type of silliness. Not that women and them things are silliness, but you get me. We're not talking about things that's meaningful for us. Why we're acting or doing certain things. When I was young, back in London, me and my friends would talk about just madness, like what we want to do on the streets or what. You get what I'm saying? It was never really like why are we actually on the streets. Like I'm 11. What am I doing on the streets? I should be in my yard going to school. What am I doing? What am I on the streets? I'm 12, 13, 14, booted out all my schools. well, 14, 15, coming to 15. What am I doing? Like, I wasn't talking, we weren't really talking about these kind of things, my friends, you get me? But when I was in prison, I realised that big grown man had never dealt with their traumas. Like, I never dealt with mine. There's nothing, sadly to say, there's enough big man even older than me right now who have never dealt with their traumas. And there's young youths who are offsprings of them, who still have traumas of their parents. And even their own traumas, you get me, and their friends' traumas too, which is vicarious trauma. And then they haven't never really spoken to nobody about what they're really going through.
It's funny you say that. One of the things that in a relationship with my children's father, one of the things that I was really pushed was for him to hug his son, because I knew I had grown up in an environment where a lot of men weren't hugging their sons. They weren't hugging them and holding them and, you know, letting them know that it's okay if they cried, rather than why you have a man up and all of that, because I really don't like that narrative. When I hear people say man up, it's such a common thing that is used in society, but it's actually very disparaging. It kind of breaks down a man that's in a position where he feels so vulnerable, doesn't know where to go, but then he can't go nowhere, so he just bottles that up. And that's how, like the song that we just listened to by Piff Marty, Boys Do Cry, the number of male suicide is absolutely off the roof, because men do not have places to go. And I'm not saying that women don't commit suicide as well, that's not what I'm trying to say, but I guess because women, we've been encouraged more because of our societal and natural nature, whether it's nature or nurture, maternal instincts, we kind of have a more caring way to sit down and talk with women about things. But I really thought that, you know, I've mentioned it before and I'll say it again, I thought it was a really powerful part in there, because it gave reckoning to, you know, sometimes people think of gangsters or Mandem Pan Road, or whatever way you want to describe it, as that's all they are. But what it did, it showed an element of sensitivity. It showed vulnerability. It showed compassion. It showed love. What it really showed is that every human has a loving space within them, no matter what things they have done out there. In fact, I would go as far as to say in the book it was probably one of my most favourite parts, because I think it encompassed so many. I'm a woman. You talk about maybe the violence element. When you think about women, and for want of a better word, I'm just going to use this to not be disrespectful, but there would be a woman out a road, a man was called a dirty gal and all of them things there, but it's the same thing. Why is she behaving like that? What is the it's about respect again.
And again is what has happened,
what trauma has
been through, what she's seen growing up, you know. There's a lot to look at before we start judging. If we really look, because like I said, there's so much people that's in prison. A lot of people were. At first, I thought I was be dogged dinner when I was in prison, because I know it's easy to lose life in Jamaica prison. But at the same time, I want to respect of a lot of people who were naturally enemies, but they never have felt a way about me. You get me? But it's because I get them a safe place to reason with me. You get me? And find themselves, and I feel like it's something that we don't do much. We don't like to talk about real situations in life. You get me? Because we kind of cover ourselves with material conversations or external conversations, which not really based upon
very surface level.
It doesn't really have the internal. You get me? So it's about really, you know, it's about channeling that inner side, that inner self, and allowing people to feel comfortable to express themselves and feel comfortable. Remember, if you allow someone to break, you know, people say you do word man up, right? Which is a common term, like drink a man up style. A man, you're going to kill a gal, you know, kind of.
So disparaging,
yeah. But reality is this: if you allow a person to express themselves, and they, as we call it, break down, and they cry and they weep or they moan, but then by letting it out, now the only way up, the only thing next is up now. It's the only thing up. But if I'm holding it all down, I'm holding. I'm just gonna just keep bubbling up. No matter what I do, just keep bubbling up. So the reality is to allow a person to express themselves. Then the only way for them is always up.
So, you know, I can 100% relate to that. When I'm at some public speaking events, when I talk about my lived experience and the things that I went through, I say I absolutely had a necessary breakdown. I call it the necessary breakdown. When you go to counselling, they will even tell you that, you know, you'll come out of a traumatic situation and you'll be firing, you'll be doing great, and all of a sudden it's like your body just says, all right, now I gotta show you how you really feel. You understand? And you have that necessary breakdown where you kind of have to take stock. I have an art piece called The Fall, which is representative of that, where it's in synergy with nature. So at this time of year, I think it's the official day of autumn today or tomorrow actually, which is why I created the piece last year. Where the woman's falling, and she's literally like that because she's actually full, just like there's so much beauty around us, but for autumnal trees and plants, the leaves come off, you fall, you go to the ground, you recuperate, you hibernate, you do all of that things, you cocoon yourself, and then you come back again. And I think that is the necessary breakdown that many people are afraid to have. They're afraid to get that raw within themselves, to kind of, accept the fact that you're going to have to go down sometimes to piece yourself back together so then you can move right up. So I can definitely agree with that. So you've created safe spaces for the prolific Jamaican gangsters. So you've created a safe space for them to talk about their feelings based on some of the stuff. I mean, I'm going to hold stock here. I have to look at you and ask you, where do you get the energy from to do so many things? Like, you do so much outreach work. Like, there's so much outreach work that you do in so many different ways. You do it through the way that you speak at events. You talk about, which I'm going to talk about later on a more spiritual level. But in terms of community work, you do a lot of youth outreach.
Yeah.
Many of them are projects that you've actually developed yourself, or there's a lot of collaborative workshops that you're doing. How did that start? Like, how did you? So you've come from, you've experienced your time in prison. You've arrived home. Was it 2006? You came.
Yeah, I came in 2006.
2006. You came out in 2006. You've come back into your local community of NW10. You're trying to find your feet. You're trying not to go back on the road, because you speak about that quite a lot. How difficult that probably was for you to go inwards, to experience a better outward life, to not actually touch the things that you know. How did you actually get into? You've done work with both public and private sector organisations. How did you get back into that? How did you get into that?
I first started off, if I remember correctly, was with Catalyst Housing. Catalyst Gateway. And I think that was one of the first times I'd done it, if I remember correctly, 2012. Because I came out, I could have done it when I first came out, an opportunity, but I didn't. I wanted to do things for myself. So I went to college, university, and sort my life out still.
So can we just hold that? He went to college and university and you got a degree. I just wanted to say that. So remember earlier on, and the reason why I'm making emphasis of this is because it's never too late, because he said by the time you were, Stephen said by the time you were 14, you'd got kicked out of all schools.
All school, yeah, 14.
Remember,
so 14 all the way to 15.
So that's social exclusion.
Last school I went to was Queen's Park. I was about 15, coming towards 15.
Okay, so around about 15 years old, he's come out of school, hasn't got no GCSEs or anything like that. But yet he went back and studied and got a degree in a medicine type of degree as well, which is skeletal. What was it? What is it? Musculoskeletal rehabilitation. Right. So this is what I'm trying to say. There's a preconceived notion that because a child has been kicked out of mainstream school, they do not have any GCSEs, haven't got any A levels, that they cannot make steps and growth. But he's just proven to you,
of course you can.
been a quote-unquote don in a Jamaican prison, has come back, not gone on the roads, decided to do something different, and has a degree, and is now in the community doing outreach work. In terms of the outreach, I'm going to ask you two questions. What are the highs of doing it, and what are the lows, if there are any?
The highs of doing it is helping. It feels it's satisfactory when you can touch people's hearts. That's definitely a high for me. Like, to touch people's hearts and help people in their struggles, they find themselves. The lows, you take a lot of energy as well. Spiritually, I'm an energetic person. I feel people to get me. So that's another thing as well. That's like in the sense, in regards to like, it can be very painful if you're doing it for your heart. If you're doing this for the making of money, then it's fine. You're going. We don't worry about nobody's business, kind. That don't mean nothing to you. But if you really care about the young people you work with, the family you're working with, then that it can be very draining, but at the same time, you sometimes have to flush off the energy as well. If you understand me, like, if you know how to release other people's energy still, because you take on a lot. You get me? I'm like my body doesn't absorb a lot of things. I'm very emotional, very empathetic. You get me?
I can relate to that.
So it's that's one of my lows. That's sad, and it's also sad just to knowing the way our people are, because I was once there. You get me? And just seeing people going through situations, and crying or worrying about things we cannot control. Whether it's bills or whether it's the way we live in situations. I mean, you can change it, but we don't seem to focus all the time on changing. We just try to focus on being angry about it. But I don't want to waste my time being angry about situations that, if I can't control it right now, let's just focus on controlling me. You get me? If I can't control the situation, I can control me though.
You get your response to the things
my
that
response
you
to
do.
the situation. So It's how do I deal with my response to that situation. So if I can't pay a bill now, or I can't stop this person, my family, from doing whatever they're doing, then how do I deal with my emotions to control myself, that I can keep myself calm, cool, and do what's next step for me to then, you know, pave the way out of that situation. You get me? But it's again, some of us sometimes we can be very too reactive. You know, like I said, I grew up being very reactive, and I feel it's not beneficial for us, you know. Like I never want to put my people down or put the community down, because it's not about putting down, it's about us re-educating ourselves and awakening. Because I feel too much of that, we do too much judging, too much, you know, putting down. But we have to understand historical and ancestral curses we're going through.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely can understand that. I feel even the narrative that we use. I think I was speaking to somebody the other day about how, you know, coming from a Caribbean background, even though being born in the UK, particularly when I lived in Jamaica, and this is no disrespect to the Jamaican culture and the family that I have, but while out there was so much success in the environment that I was in anyway. There was a lot of very successful people, but the driver to the success was the fear of. It came from a negative place. So even though they had lots of accomplishments, it was, if you don't do this, then this is going to happen. If you don't do this, you're not going to get into Calama. If you don't do this, you're not going to go to Walmart. Like there was all of that kind of, from the starting point of getting somebody to do something was always from a place of fear, which I think has definitely got a lot to do with the social construct of racism, colonialism. All of that stuff is in the fabric of many of the people from the diaspora.
That's just not even Caribbean, that's even over here as well. If you don't do this, even in America, it's if you
Same.
have to do, I think we focus on a lot of fear. We have a lot of fear, and a lot of fear is trauma based. So I can that, man. Fear is trauma based. We have a lot of fear in our minds, like, you know, even people we fear for what we do, or fear how we're going, or fear of what we don't have, or fear for, you know, it's a lot of fear. So we need to let go of the fear and know that, okay, if I don't have something, I just don't have it. Now what do I do to get it? But I'm not going to be fearful that I don't have it. Does that make sense? And for a lot of people, it's hard to put themselves in that mind frame that, you know, okay, if I don't have this, I don't have it. Cool, no problem. Now how do I map out to get it? But I'm not going to go from a place of fear like, oh my God, if I don't have it, how am I going to get it? That's
victim-based first. Again, it's talking about being in that victim space and finding, there's a quote that I have that has an element of it, that a lot of people find refuge in their pain. They find refuge there. They come from a pain place. They talk about it. Like, I think more people need to be mindfully aware of how much they speak the traumas of the past in their day-to-day, because of the energy. Because from a neuropsychological stance, every time you talk about a traumatic experience, your brain does not know that you're not actually going through it. So you're reliving that, and I would strongly, I think it's plausible to suggest that that's why so many of us in our communities have high blood pressure, because we keep reliving this. I'm not going to go into the science of it. I could, but this is not the time. This is not the place for it. But back to you know, you being compassionate. You're having a lot of compassion for the community, coming from a very loving space. I'm going to ask you a question, but before I'm going to do that, I think I'm going to go for another song, actually. I think I need a little bit of a breakout, because that was kind of deep still. Can we go through that? Cool. Let's see if this is going to do what I want it to do. Here we go. Let's do this first. Run this and then you can thought I'd set the speed and the energy with that because we spoke about some what can be considered some low vibe things. I wanted to kind of bring the vibration up somewhat. That was Eternal Light. I really love that. That's by Free Nationals and Chronics. I really love that tune. So continuing on the theme of passion, some people may not know that your first book was actually a love story. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Your first romance novel. Your actual first book was a romance novel. Now I have it here. I'm actually reading it at the moment. I was hoping that I would have read all of it in time, but I have been doing lots of reading. I'm also an artist that needs to paint. So, but this is the book here. It's called Compatible Minds. Again, I'm not being biased here. This is a very, very well written book. There's quotes in there that are actually really, that I think I might have to steal a couple of them when I'm in conversations with people if I just start to go out on the dating scene, see how it works for me. It's got some real good lyrical content in there. There's some wordy prowess in there. It's been really, really good. So yeah, a lot of people don't know that. People know Incarcerated J.A. As your book, but actually your first was a romance novel called Compatible Minds. Do you write that while you was in prison?
Yeah,
you wrote that while you was in prison?
Yeah, that and Healthy Love.
And Healthy Love. I've got Healthy Love as well. I'm just going to do this and big up this brother here, yeah, because I'll tell you something. I've been doing the research. Trust me, there is so much stuff that I found. I don't even know if one shows enough for us to be able to highlight what this individual is doing for the community, for himself, as he speaks about self-love as the primary thing, and then all of the other things. I'll say something else as well, which I hope you're not going to be unhappy with for me saying. Actually, to get this interview, right, and I think this is really beautiful. Actually, to get this interview, it had to revolve around making sure that you were able to sort out childcare, because that was the priority for you and your family, which I thought was really beautiful. I haven't actually heard a man, and before I say this, I'm not trying to say that men do not have this responsibility, but he was like, nah, I got to pick up my daughter on this, nah, I can't do that because I got, like, it was, I can't do the weekends because that's when I have my children. I was like, oh my God, that's so nice. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I think I love that, the openness about being there, being that sensitive side. I think it was really, really good that you shared that. So just to let you know also, Healthy Love, which is that's the reason why I used his quote as the quote for the show, because there's a lot of love and compassion in a lot of what you do. So you've got Compatible Minds, and you wrote that while you were incarcerated in JA. I want to ask you why you wrote the book, and are the characters and scenarios based on personal experiences?
I wrote the book because I was in prison. Me and my daughter's mom, we separated while I was in prison. Not because of any bad thing, it's just because I thought I was doing a life sentence, innit? And so thank God I dropped a manslaughter. And a couple of years down the line, I was just thinking about not just her, I was just thinking about life and what I want on the outside, because we separated, she was going her own way. But I actually told her to move on, because I thought, like I said, I was going to do a life sentence. And then it's a situation where I was there, I just left. I had the idea when I was in Spanish Town. I returned back to Spanish Town. After I left Spanish Town with GP, went back to Spanish Town in 2005 after they kicked us out of GP because of some murders that happened towards the inmates. And then I went to I went to Tamarind Farm, yeah. So while I was in Tamarind Farm in dormitory, and Tamarind Farm was a beautiful place outside, and this allowed me to think, because there's a dorm, and it's not like the bang up prisons. The dorm is much more free, and birds and them things actually animals. And I just thought to myself, like, mine's gonna go home soon, and this love was on my mind. And I was in there for about 6 months, and I didn't already have the idea in my head when I was in Spanish Town. The last time when I went to Spanish Town, I was in South Block. So I said yes to myself, what? I just wanted to just. At the same time I was talking to females on the phone as well,
So hold on a minute, let me just go back to that part. So while you was inside, you were able to talk to females on the phone?
Yeah.
Lots of?
Yeah, quite a few. You gotta see every time to women now. What? You can't be out of place like, it must have to end, but at the same time you need it. You can't just have be a man around the channel. No, I don't want a man violent talk and anything like that. I want some love, and you get me?
Some sensitive,
I learned to love myself more, so now they're seeing, I've always been a loving guy towards women, but now they see them more, I've always been compassionate and loving, but they saw more more mature side. You get me? So we was talking and just had some beautiful conversations and yeah, I decided that I just put.
You look like you were back to nostalgia there.
I just went back to the first. I went back to that moment, but I just thought to myself, I had to write how I felt, and what I would want to see in a relationship, and that's why I call it compatible minds, because I looked at relationships in my past as well, and and I'm not gonna say in the past I never hurt no woman, because there's times where you just, a woman doesn't value herself if you don't value yourself, because. You get me? We're both in that stage where she don't mind just being, as some women say, don't mind being a man's link, or you get me, or be on the side, or whatever. Or, you get me, or you're lying to a woman, not telling her the truth about your relationship that you have another woman. You get me? All those kind of things there. So I was in that state of mind where I wasn't being an honest person in it. So that's what I was as a youth, and many people do that. You get me, women and men. And so as that, in telling myself what I wanted from a relationship, like how I wanted my life to be, and how I wanted to be. Where I'm with somebody now, and it's more mentally mature relationship, not just physically, but mentally mature relationship, where our communication is key. That's the root of our relationship, because our relationship should be based on how we speak to each other, our emotional intelligence, our feelings, and so this is what compatible minds are basically about. It's about being mentally compatible with someone, because when you're mentally compatible with someone, you can talk about. You can do everything. If it's mentally, emotionally, sexually, everything, you can just reason because you're compatible. Compatible minds also, you have a good sense of energy, feeling it. Like the character in the book, he meets Yolanda, and straight away, within 2 occasions, they're linking. You get me? And some people say that's so fast, but that's not actually really so fast. If they're energetically connected, where some of us move again from a fear base, you might really connect somebody. And a lot of people can relate to this. What I'm going to say now is they've had someone in their life, they feel, I let a good person go, or I could have, or I should have been with that person, but because of moving from a place of fear, they're like, nah, like, so it gets slow. Or, I'm not saying people should rush relationship. What I'm saying is, when you energy connect with somebody, it's different from just looking at someone physically and think, oh, that person's sexy. Because we're talking about a spiritual, you feel something connected about them. Them two in the book, they bounce against each other. And
Yeah,
it's like
when
when they first met, and they I don't want to spoil for anyone to see, when they first met, they clashed. How they met is like, that's an energetic connection. It's a spiritual connection. So people have to understand, like, even though in my culture we talk of courting with somebody, yeah, but you can, because we've been courting, and but even though that there's sometimes reason why you do things like courting, because you may not have a spiritual connection with this person. You might realize, hey, this person ain't for me. You get me? But when you have something you feel like someone's divinely there for you, like boom, you just meet that person. Oh, this is for me. You get me? That spiritual connection is what the book was really about. So in my mind, I was always saying, I want to find that person. I'm not saying that I had. You get me? I've had remember me and my daughter working out still. You get me? We're cool still. We're good friends. That's the most important thing. We have a mature way of dealing with things towards our little one, which is important. That's important, because I feel that's really important. And if you don't work it out, you actually don't work. Be very mature in regards to your offspring. Yeah, that's a no-brainer. Like, you get me? You mean you got to be there for your child. Show respect to the woman, and she will show respect to you. You get me? That's important for the children. Even if you have your little problems, trying to do it for the children. But back to Compatible Minds, it was my idea when I wrote that book was really looking at the idea of meeting that special person who can mentally relate to you, spiritually connected to you. Get me? So the energetic relationship is as powerful, and that's what you're like just like a force of power for one another. You help each other physically, mentally, emotionally, and it's just that what the concept of Compatible was about, is about. And a lot of people, like I said, we tend to have fear-based relationships. Or should I say we have dictatorships and controllerships, but we don't actually have real relationships where I can relate to you and you really relate to me. You have many people together for 50, 40 years. We see our forefathers do, our ancestors do, like some people's grandmothers and grandparents. But you see they're unhappy and erratic.
Oh, they sleep in separate rooms.
I don't want none of that. I want to know when I'm with somebody, this is joy. Like when I'm walking you, people can tell the energy is right. People can feel like, we don't have to say we're together. People could just feel it. People could know the energy is just like, yo, them people, they're banging. That's what Compatible Minds was really about. It's about the way they energetically made each other feel. And
Don't
Yeah.
spoil it. Don't spoil no
Yeah,
more for me
it's
because it is such a. I was battling with a lot of things that I had to do. The other that I've had to do. Well, I didn't get to read more, but so far I'm delighted. I cannot wait to read more of that. So. We've spoken that he'd done Incarcerated J.A. His first book was Compatible Minds, which is a romance novel. And you spoke about your spiritual practice when you were talking now. In prison, you were given the name Hebrew. Yeah, they called you Hebrew while you were in prison. And you spent much of your time connecting with your spiritual practice, right? That's where you spent a lot of time there. But also in there, you talk about being your spiritual practice at one point was Rastafarianism, right?
Yeah.
I'm interested to, as somebody that used to have locks and practiced and did a little bit 12 tribes and 9 being, I was really trying to find myself. I think I was around about. I asked if I could have I asked permission to. I was going to do it anyway because I'm a bit rebellious like that. I asked permission if I could locks my hair. I think about the age of 13 or 12, and then that's the route that I went down. I was trying to find myself. I was trying to connect to the motherland and do all of this. So I did Rastafarian practices. But what was it? What was the basis for the switch from Rastafarianism to now that you're Israelite? What was the reasoning behind that?
Well, see, Rastas always said they're Israelites anyway.
Okay, so let's clarify that. Yeah, no, definitely, please, because I don't know
So,
enough. So
But
that's
what
what
it
I'm
was
asking.
is, I grew up. My mom's name is Juanita Bathsheba Shamuel. So you always know she's the Israelite. Like I said, my family is Jamaican Syrian. Now, but for me, and my mom's her Spanish name. And if you understand my Spanish, Inquisition, Portuguese, I'm not saying that alone is a direct tie, but my family, especially my mother, my aunties, they all have Spanish names. Yeah, a lot of them. So, but even my sisters have Spanish names. My mom named them. My mother has Spanish names. But what's the name? The point I'm making is when you understand the history of Jamaican people. A lot of their history, going back to the Spanish Inquisition, Portuguese Inquisition, is intertwined with the Islam movement. Always has been. It's like ancestry. You understand about the Black Portuguese, like Yaya Ben Negro, and if you understand about Portugal and the Black Portuguese, a lot of them were sent to like places like Suriname and Jamaica. You understand that Jamaica had a very long tie hit from 1400s with the blacks, original Black Israelites. Yeah. Some people refer to the Black Jews. Yeah. And so, with that being said, Jamaica, the Israelite concept is never new to Jamaica. And then with the Rastafarian movement came in 1930, yeah, the movement of Rastafarian. But most of that came from the biblical lifestyle. You get me? So, but yeah, people like Bob and they would say half the story never been told. Yeah, so for me, I would say the half that's never been told is the fullness of the children of Israel because they looked at the Tafari. Whatever the concept, I'm not going to bash the concept the way they looked at Tafari, but we look at Tafari, he's the 25th king on the line of Solomon and Sheba, which still is like lineage in Ethiopia. So it's still the concept of that was still an Israelite concept, but it was just directed in a different way. Do you get me? But it's for me when I did my knowing as a youth growing up, I was Israelite, but that didn't mean nothing to me because like I said, I got arrested and me, I too had locks when I was a youth. In my teens I had locks. But then I realised that when I was in prison, that no, like the fullness of this thing isn't to say Rastafari, it was to turn back to the God of Israel, innit? So I started to do a lot of research. Well, in prison I started to read a lot of Bible and whatever research I could do in prison. And yeah, I come to a better conclusion still, and I kind of drew to my mum's way. And then that kind of like, led me to. When I first in prison, everyone started calling me Israel in prison first because everyone started telling me I'm Israelite. You get me? So I stopped saying I was a Rastafarian and telling everyone I'm Israelite. I used to tell people Rasta them say Israelites, the real Rasta Israelite. You get me? But then after I kind of stepped up the thing, I said my brothers sent me a Hebrew Bible dictionary. Yeah, and my brother brought on down for me because they used to visit me in Jamaica. And then I started reading Hebrew and practicing Hebrew.
Because you can speak a bit of Hebrew,
yeah,
innit?
Yeah, I speak a bit of Hebrew.
See, multifaceted again, written a book, got a degree, can speak Hebrew.
So my
The
brother,
list keeps going.
I'm better at reading though. I'm really good at reading. I can read it still easy. So my brother, so I was teaching myself to look at Hebrew, so I was reading, and then doing that, it's like prisons and everyone's like with Hebrew, so my name Hebrew is throughout the whole prison.
Yeah.
Back in them days, in 98, 2006, everybody knows. Well, especially from 2006, everybody knows Hebrew. Like, and they were in our own, innit? So
I can relate to
I
that.
was doing so a lot of people's touched the work. I'm coming from a different perspective they never heard.
Yeah.
You get me? So even Rastas was like, yo, your thing solid. You get me? Like even Rastas were fighting me as a cousin named Jigo Gati. You get me? Jigo always said like, yo, the way you're talking solid though. There's no way to a man can't really.
You can't break
Yeah,
through
enough
this.
man-
The
enough man-
foundation
yeah,
is
enough man
solid.
was trying to-
Yeah.
Like, not enough man, one or two man will try to fight me down. Because in my book I talk about your name's Zephyr still, innit? He's trying to fight me down, man. You deny us still, but it's the reality is certain Rastas know that what you're talking is facts, like your thing is solidified. You get me? So
It's interesting. One of the things that I know from my paternal grandmother, even the chain that I've got is hers, and she always used to say, as a child, me growing up, that she says I'm an Israelite. She said we are Israelite. My gran used to say that to me quite often. She used to say Israelite. She said Israelite, and she used to call me an Ashanti baby. That's what she used to call me. Like me when I was little. I love my nan. May she rise in eternal peace. My nana, very dark, beautiful lady.
you know, there's
She
many
said
tribes in West Africa who are is like ancestral anyway. That's not nothing like the Igbos and the Shanti and the Fulani. There's quite a few tribes in West Africa that have been known to be Israelites. You know, even in East Africa. So it's not unusual.
It's
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 just that
interesting.
what is I feel is that we have been misunderstood or miseducated. Should I say? Really, we've been miseducated about our own history and culture, who we are, and we just hold to the grass of being, black, and we're cool with the concept of just being black. But there's more to just being black.
I think the further you go is the more spiritually connected is the more beautiful stuff will happen, because when you feel connected to your ancestral line, through that the energies of knowing self, the pride, the way you walk, more when you know more about yourself, you have more to feel proud of their journey as to why we are here today. By the way, talking about journeys and stuff like that, I'm going to talk about some of the other stuff that you've done. So I'm going to ask this question. Your outfit, bulletproof jeans and all of that. Is this one of your? Because I heard, I in your book, or even just in research, you had quite a profitable business in terms of clothing, and you were on the verge of being bought out by a French company. So is this one of yours?
No. This is my brother still. It's my brother still. Respect Stally still. Bulletproof dreams, is it? My man can't mash up a man's dreams in the car. My dreams bulletproof. No man can't knock my dreams. Is it? Right?
You got bulletproof, so well done. Look, I like that. That's representing in the community.
Check this out. Bulletproof dreams, amazing. Like, check it out. He's doing amazing things. You get me? And plus the power of his word as well. Bulletproof dreams. People realize, your dreams can't be penetrated, right? And that's what we have to actually wear that. Not just on our clothes, but in our hearts as well. So he's actually telling you things, but you have to take that information
in. Deeper, and absorb the message.
Yeah, of course. Bulletproof dreams, because you get me.
Cut different.
You're
representing.
100%.
Okay. So I do.
But it's beautiful because there's other people doing those kind of things, which I think is beautiful. Just making their clothing like that, and we need to support our own people.
Definitely.
I'm not saying we can't wear designers, but our own people's things, man. Support our own people.
Definitely.
If we did that, we'd be surprised how much millionaires we could create.
Definitely. The fact that we're here today, knowing, I don't want to keep going on it, but knowing the social construct that is racism and how it has played out in history from to there and now. The fact that me, you, and our amazing engineer here is present in this very moment goes to show the ancestral magic that is within us. That we are here today. We're able to do really fantastic things. But what has hindered us in the past is the lack of accessibility. But with modern technology now, we're being able to have more accessibility, which is allowing us to do more things and to believe in ourselves. And seeing other people like your friend with the bulletproof dreams, the younger generations are seeing that and seeing that it's doable. Do you understand? Which is really, really interesting. So you. Oh my goodness.
My clothing, my clothing was actually Rastafarian clothing.
Was it Rastafarian clothing?
That was 96, 97, something like that. Wow. But it was doing really good still. And they all have man from ours and all Belgium. We spent time with friends back here, kick off with man from ours. When them man were wearing my things, enough people wearing my things all over the place, man, wearing my things, Kilburn, bricks and everywhere. Enough Rastas bought it out. I also Rastas in South Africa wearing my things.
Wow. This is again, you're very, very multifaceted. So I'm gonna play a tune which makes me think of you in terms of the amount of things that you've done. But there's something that I have heard you say in an interview, which I'm gonna mention after the song is finished, just so we can just go there. So I'm just gonna do this, and with this because I think it makes me think quite a lot about your journey actually.
I tell you, you know, I'm gonna leave by 6 though, you know.
Okay, yeah. I'll push it. I'll push it.
So-
I'm gonna close up soon.
This feeling is unmatched. This feeling is brought to you by adrenaline and good rap. Black Pendleton, bar cap. West. We don't share the same synonym. Far back. West. Been in it before internet had new acts. Mimicking radio's nemesis made me whack. My innocence limited, the experience lacked. 10 of us with no tentative tactic that cracked. The mind of a literate writer, but I did it in fact. You admitted it once I submitted it, wrapped in plastic. Remember scribbling, scratching, diligent.
You're listening to Talking
and
Community
freestyle
Radio,
ciphers for your
keeping the
reaction.
community
Now I
connected.
can live in this stadium, pack it the fastest. Gambling, Benjamin benefit, sending in traffic, spinning women in cartwheels, linen fabric on fashion, winning in every decision. Kendrick gets mastered that mastered it, isn't it? Lovely how menaces turn attraction, pivoting rappers finishing fraction while writing blue magic. Thank God for rap. I would say it got me a plaque, but what's better than that? The fact it brought me back home.
We've been waiting for you, waiting for you, waiting for you, waiting for you.
I know everything. I know everything. Know myself. I know morality, spirituality, good and bad health. I know fatality might haunt you. I know everything. I know Compton. I know street shit. I know shit that's conscious. I know everything. I know lawyers, advertisement, and sponsors. I know wisdom. I know bad religion. I know good karma. I know everything. I know history. I know the universe works mentally. I know the perks of bullshit. Is it meant for me? I know everything. I know cars, clothes, hoes, and money. I know loyalty. I know respect. I know those that's hungry. I know everything. The highs, the lows, the groupies, the junkies. I know if I'm generous at heart, I don't need recognition. The way I'm rewarded, well, that's God's decision. I know you know that line's for Compton School District. Just give it to the kids, don't gossip about how it's distributed. I know how people work. I know the price of life, I'm knowing how much it's worth. I know what I know, and I know it well not to ever forget. Until I realized I didn't know shit the day I came home.
We've been waiting for you, waiting for you, waiting for you, waiting for you.
I met a little boy that resembled my features, nappy afro.
The reason actually why I chose that song is because it made me think from doing the research that I've done of you. You're very multifaceted. There's, you know, people might say jack of all trade, mastered of none, but the saying has something about it's better to know that rather than don't know none. I don't remember, it's by Shakespeare. I bodged that up, but I'll figure it out and put it on my on my Instagram. But what I loved about that song is because I've listened to you on many of your interviews. I've been doing a lot of research, trust me, it's a lot of work done. And one of the things is that you really emphasize a lot is that as much as you have a plethora of knowledge or you have a vast range of experiences, of your life experiences, you've actually said, but I don't know. That's the powerful thing to other people, but for you yourself, there's so much that you don't know. And I love that you talk. I don't like to use the word humble because I think it's a low vibe word. I'm sorry for people that like to say, oh, it's so nice to be humble. I don't agree with that, but what it did make me think was the intelligence, the emotional intelligence you have to understand that even with your journey, with the amount of things that you have and have not been doing, all of the things that you've been going through, you're aware now at this point in your life because of the self-discovery and the self-love that you've gone through, that you actually have so much more to learn on your journey. And you've said that.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, like, to answer that, like, I like Should I Choose Bad still, Kendrick Lamar still. What's the name? For me, it's like, that saying jack of all trades, master of none, I don't believe in that, because like I speak in my book in Incarcerated, I say we're multi-dimensional people. You know, we're not one-dimensional. It's just it doesn't make sense. That's not universal. So anything within the universe works in harmonious ways to bring forth the best. So you got the sun, the moon. Yeah. They don't shine the same light, but they bring forth different beauties. You get me? Nothing works singular. So for me, I don't believe that we only have one skill. That's just not normal. That's what they tell us to be. That's very
control.
Linear in
That's
life.
very linear, controlling.
We are multi-talented people naturally. It's by creation, by nature. There's different cell groups that make up your body. You have different type of cells groups that make your body. You know, studying physiology, you understand that. You have loads of cells. You got muscle cells, Also, different cells, they're all cellular, but we're like a one big cell.
Mhm.
But it's not just one cell. Why am I supposed to be one dimension? This doesn't, it's logical.
Doesn't make
for me.
sense.
No,
Yeah,
for me,
yeah.
on a normal level, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Or should I say on my level of
Yeah.
understanding, it doesn't make sense. But at the same time, do I really understand anything? No. The reason I say I don't understand much, now people might say, oh, Steve, you know this with your minds, but no. Wisdom, like I say, for me, I'm a very confident person. Man's here and God's there, and like the creator's the creator. Now, I can't understand how creation works in the sense of I didn't make creation like Scripture says. God said He'd make us like the sand of the seas. I said to my son yesterday, he was talking. Funny thing, was talking. Me and my son was reasoning about me and my big boy Ezekiel. We were chatting about wisdom, and I was saying to him, well, listen, when you pick up amount of dust in your like the sand in your hand, can you count a number how much sand's in your hand? Like you cannot tell how much sand you've got.
Grains,
Yeah, you might even be able to measure the weight of it, but you don't. You might guess the weight, but you cannot say how many individual grains.
Yeah.
That's wisdom.
Yeah.
I don't have wisdom on the Most High. So
Yeah.
they say the man who knows much knows that the man who really knows much knows he knows nothing at all.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I don't have that knowledge on inside. I can't number the stars and tell you how much stars. I can't do that.
Mhm.
You get me? So is it because I know certain things I don't know? I just know I don't know. I know what I know, but I don't know. I know to myself I don't know much. So it always keeps me always wanting to seek.
Mhm.
You see, when it's like when you're in the gym and a man's in the gym and you say, you know, I want to push weight, I want to be like him, I want to be like her, I want to be like, you know, anybody who goes to the gym and they say, I want to push as much that person. So your mindset is based on somebody. So you want to push, so that person over there is pushing 30 kgs, you want to push 30 kgs. So then you get 30 kgs, oh, that man over there pushed 40, I want to be like him now. I want to be like him, I want to be like him. And you're always looking outside yourself to be the best. When you realize that if I said I want to push, what can I push? I will never stop pushing. Do you get me? Everyone always base themselves on something else.
Yeah, rather than
Don't do that.
themselves, yeah.
Find your inner self, your
Self.
inner love. It's all
Yeah.
about self-love and self-respect.
Mhm.
Find who you are. That means you're constantly going to grow. And the more you grow, the more you realize, I don't know nothing, because you're going to learn all this new stuff, and you'll be like, I really don't know nothing. Because when you think you're there, you're just not there. You get me? You're just step. So for me, I'm just a free-flowing guy. I just want to keep learning and keep growing, and I don't know much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I say that with not in an ego or not with a pride or,
Yeah.
or to be humble or none kind of thing. I say
Yeah.
that because I really mean, like, I don't know much. I'm just gonna continue
Learning and going enjoying. Yeah.
Yeah, and enjoy my life.
Yeah.
Enjoy growing.
Joy is important, like
Yeah.
I said, the basis for the show, which is interesting when you talk about all the different things you can do, because also, which I found out in the book, which made me go, ooh, is the fact that you're actually very, very quite good at art, aren't you?
Yeah. I can draw still. I can draw still. I learned to draw in prison. So my brother's an artist. Like he was an artist. I didn't know I could draw. So when I was in prison, I sat down and I'm a person. If you put a picture in front of me, I can draw that picture.
So that was interesting
Just
for
like
me.
that.
I was like, wow, there's so many things in terms of your ability. Like you said, we're not one-dimensional, we're multi-dimensional, we're multifaceted. So on that note, what would you say to a young creative out there? So there's a young creative out there, regardless of what their creative expression and their creative practice is. What would you say to a young creative out there with a criminal record? What would you say to them? In terms of if they feel like they can't go forward because of the fact that they've got a criminal
The record is an illusion.
Okay.
It's an illusion. That's number one. If one person stands there and blocks that or uses it as against you, somebody else is gonna give you a blind. But you have to also believe in yourself like that. You have the power to make and shift that obstacle in your way. And this is what they don't want to teach us, that we can shift any obstacle in our way. Despite that person may be a stronger force against you, there's a next person who's willing to oblige and give you. Do you get me? Like, and then when people do that, and bigger, even deeper than that, there's nobody can actually stop you from actually doing what you desire to do. Because you have the will to make whatever it is you want to manifest, no matter how long it takes. But it's having a passion for it. Because if you have a passion for it, you'll stay at it no matter how long.
It doesn't matter.
So you're gonna get there anyway. You know what I mean? Like I always tell people, I don't believe in failure. Like we can never fail. It's always if you keep trying. I think Einstein said something like, "Don't judge me for my don't look at me where I'm at now, but understand my failure." Because every time he tried it, it's like David Beckham. David Beckham became one of the best free kick footballers because he practiced all the time. He missed it, but he practiced. Yeah. So it's repetition, isn't it? So there's nothing wrong with making failures or going through situations. I'm not telling young person now to go and do wrong things in life. But if you have done things in life, don't think just because you have to continue to do it. Because I'm not the only person. There's other people out there myself who are living proof that you can turn your life around. You can make something of yourself and fulfill your dream, not somebody else's dream. Because there's no, it's like my brother here doing this bulletproof. He's fulfilling his thing. This is what he wants to do. but I'm supporting him in this. He's purchased my books. He tells people about my books.
Mhm.
We can help each other to market each other. And if you ever, there's even someone in criminal don't matter, because like for instance, my book. If I sell 100,000 copies of my book, if the community, and if we have more than 100,000 people just in London, if everyone went and bought out my book, that will give me enough money to actually turn my book into a movie. I won't even worry about a production company to take it on.
And
This
you
how-
self-sustained.
Yeah, self-sustained. This is how easy it is. We can help each other. And £10, imagine £10. My book's just £10. So a person just gonna say, boom, let's buy his book. If I'm gonna read it, if I don't read, alright, I'll buy it for my cousin because she reads or he reads, or I'll buy it for the little nephew. But you buy the book, you are actually gonna help me to turn that book into a movie. Do you get me? And then that movie can then bring in other people who
Other
wants
creatives, yeah.
other
All
creatives.
sort of- there's
So
so many
everybody's gonna help
things.
each other.
Yeah,
Everyone
yeah.
can help each other to grow and to build. Me buying this t-shirt now, hopefully it's God willing somebody sees this thing. You know what? We go on Instagram, boom, type in bulletproof. They go buy the bulletproof dream.
Yeah.
Say, yo, for real, no man is trashing my dream. I'm wearing this. You get me? And then you don't know, like you buying his thing, you're gonna help him to go stock up again and or create a next t-shirt look different that might resonate some people are visual people, they like certain views.
Yeah,
You might think that little
visual.
pattern.
Yeah.
That's what I want. We don't realize how much power we have, more power and potential than we realize. We have more power in our hands, but we seem to always look outside and everything else.
Because we're not taught to. I think that's definitely the way that we've been raised in society and taught. That's again why I say surviving to thriving is the art of conscious awareness, and I'm using the play of art to become when I say that I've used the play of words in that saying because it's art, it's creative expression, it's creativity.
That's
That
beautiful.
thank you. This is from my clothing line, which
That's
is AU style, and this actual section of it is called Sing Thy Truth.
You see what I'm saying? Sisters should be buying that. Even men can buy that.
Yeah. So there comes in many colours. If you go on amjatunabashedly.com, there's many of them there, different colours, different sizes, and I do extra. I think a 3XL because I want everybody, and they're all people. I don't have male or female. They're just all people things that
Yeah,
everybody
that's
can
what I
wear.
mean.
them.
Remember, I'm saying
So yeah.
That's what I'm saying. The power we have as a people, how talented we are. If we just really, you know, even if you say to yourself, I'm not buying it for me, but I have somebody else who could benefit from it. Like, for instance, a person might say, oh, I don't read books, so you're not going to buy my book. But then at the same time, you might know somebody who does read books, or somebody who needs to read that book, or a friend, I mean, sadly, but a friend in your jail or family, you get me, or even just a loved one at home, you can buy it for somebody else. But if we will support each other's dreams, you know, you might not wear this, you might not feel like your dreams are bulletproof.
But I might know somebody that I
but
can
you
gift
might
it
somebody
to.
you can give to
Yeah.
and tell them, listen,
Yeah.
believe in yourself. You
Yeah.
get me? In fact,
'Cause that's
when
what
you
the
wear this,
message-
the message is believe. The message about belief.
Yeah.
Yourself. You get me? So we can help each other. Someone can wear thinking, wow, like this is help me to find my happiness. You get me? Let me go check. You get me saying, let me go check your. We can help each other.
In
We
so
can
many ways.
build each other in so many ways,
Definitely.
but we just don't realize how simple it is. Because we don't realize that life in naturally itself is simplicity.
Yeah.
But we make life complicated.
Yeah.
We have
As
to
Lauren
make things-
says, it could all be so simple, but
Yeah.
we'd rather make it hard.
Yeah, we literally make life harder than it
harder
is.
than it
It's so
needs to be.
simple, but we make it harder because we're in a condition. So we have to uncondition ourselves, unlearn.
Okay.
You get me?
So I'm going to ask you a few questions because I'm aware that maybe your childcare responsibilities may mean that you have to leave here sooner than I would have. I would have loved to spend so much more time with you. It's interesting to actually get to be around the individual that's written so many amazing books. What I want to know is, you don't always feel motivated. We're humans. We don't
Of
always
course.
feel motivated. What do you do for motivation?
What I do for meditation, I meditate. I like to meditate. When I'm really down, I like to meditate. I like to meditate. I like to listen to music. I love listening to music.
Me
Yeah,
too.
I
I
put
love
on some
music.
R&B and I don't rap in R&B.
Are you
So-
like
Yeah,
R&B?
of course, I love my R&B. R&B, I love Jamaican, also Celine Dion and them, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh,
Twain,
so can I just
Twain,
say,
everything.
do you listen to country and western as
What?
well?
Kenny Rogers, don't play with Kenny Rogers and Tim McGraw. Tim McGraw, love my Tim McGraw. You know
I
what for
thought
me,
so.
yeah, I'm not that kind of person that's only listening what they call black music.
Yeah, I don't do
But
that.
there's a lot of
either.
emotions in country. I'm a feelings person.
Okay.
I need emotions. I need people's energy. I need
Okay.
energy. You get me?
Okay.
So, like Tim McGraw's got a short song about you'll always be my baby girl. Like it's just a banging tune. You get me?
Okay.
Like
Nice.
daddy's little girl.
Listen.
Yeah, man. I love the type of Kenny Rogers, hear me. Like I love certain type of tunes. You get me? Daddy Parton. I listen to all type of things still in the car. It's the energy in it. I just go with what's good vibes. You know what I mean?
Okay, so you've given me that because that was my next segue question, but you've already answered. I might just change it slightly. What is currently in your playlist at the moment then?
Currently my playlist.
Yeah.
My home is definitely. Oh, I have old school 80s reggae music. Still like like old school reggae. Of course, Barbara and them thing there, but like I said, I love my Still Deal and thing still. I remember
Okay.
I love the Still Deal. I love the old school R&B. You know,
Okay.
I love all that kind of
Okay.
thing because it's nice. You get
Okay,
me?
so I'm gonna ask, who inspires you? Because somebody that's
Who
quite,
inspires me?
you very have a way of being, doing your own thing. But who inspires you?
Who inspires me?
Yeah.
Who inspires me?
Or what? It doesn't have to be a person. What person, thing, place, whatever it is.
My
what-
children definitely inspire me. My
Mhm.
children inspire me. I learn a lot from them.
Okay.
I
So you'd say
think
your
it's,
children. The primary one is your children.
That's not really a primary. I have different inspirations.
Okay.
Children inspire me. Nature itself inspires me. Sometimes
Okay.
I feel a way. I might go outside and look at the clouds and the sun.
You mentioned the moon a lot in your book, actually.
Yeah, I
Why?
do. The moon.
Yeah. What was it about that? You mentioned the moon a lot of times in your book, in Incarcerated.
You know
JA.
what? In my culture, still, a lot of people look at there's a lot of misunderstanding about Hebrew culture because a lot of people think that Hebrew culture, like Hebrew, a lot of people are daytime people, but they don't realize that the Hebrew culture has a lot of energy towards nighttime. And a lot of people don't understand that. Like I like to get up, like people call Fajr in the Islamic. I like to get up 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning. I look at the sun before it rises. This is what I love to do. I don't really sleep much in prison anyway, because I never really sleep much. So staying up is something I like to do anyway. But when you look at nighttime, it's just quiet and there's a different energy in the universe. And in my culture, like when you look at my culture, my ancestors came out of Egypt by flame of fire at nighttime. We did a lot of travel at nighttime. We did a lot of things at night.
Okay.
You know, because people misunderstand the power of nighttime. They look at nighttime like it's very negative because we focus a lot on just daytime and
that
sun.
energy
And
and
look at
think
the negative
negativity,
at
yeah.
nighttime is darkness and but then at nighttime there's a power because even your millions activate your sun. When the sun rays down on you, but in the nighttime the million activates.
Yeah.
You understand at nighttime, so people understand the power of night. Night is actually powerful, and in the Hebrew culture, which a lot of you, not some even inside you, some Hebrews don't understand this, that nighttime played a key role in the Hebrew culture. It really played a key role. You get me? And I'm a person. I'm a night person still. You get me? But I wrote about this in my book, a new book.
You got a new book. Okay, so
Yeah.
this is where I was going to go with that, and I think that's a perfect segue into my next question.
Yeah, I
then.
got a new book.
So, where do you hope to go with your boundless creativity? Where do you hope to go with it?
I don't have a specific place or no. I just leave it to whatever the creator has it for me to be, and for it to go. But I want to touch. My aim is to touch a lot of hearts. I really want to. I want to, touch a lot of hearts because I believe what comes from heart touches the heart. And my stuff, for me, it comes straight from heart. So, I want to just help people's lives. So there's no real boundaries to the things I'm trying to do.
No, but that's what I said. That's why I said it's boundless. That was the whole premise of the question. That it's
I
boundless.
don't know where I want to go with it in regards to like. There is no real direction. Let's sort of go throughout the earth. Like, to and fro throughout the earth. What everything I'm doing just to be out there,
So, but you just mentioned that you're writing, and so you're writing another book.
Yeah, I'm writing a few books about
A few? Did you hear that,
I'm
Ro?
writing a few,
He said I'm writing a few books.
Yeah,
You're writing a few books.
Yeah, I'm writing Armageddon 2. I'm writing part. I just touch
Because Armageddon's animated. You've got an animation which you've done.
Armageddon was a book, but it turned to a documentary. Then it turned to an animated movie, which is going to be shown on RepDap soon.
Okay.
That TV soon. Yeah, it'll be first time it's going to be shown out.
But you've got other documentaries as well that you've
Yeah,
done.
I've
You've
got like
lots of-
19 documentaries.
Yeah, you've
like
got
19
quite a lot of
documentaries, short movie.
You've got one called Love, Art and Compassion, which I was like, oh, that's quite similar. So I was interested in that. So, I mean, I think maybe at some point, maybe I'm going to have to talk to you again because I think there's so much more that you're going to do. But for this, I just wanted to say thank you so much for blessing myself and the Choco community with your energy and your presence.
you
It's
for
been an
having me,
absolute
man.
pleasure. I've learned a little bit more about you. I've learned that you're very compassionate, you have so much passion in terms of the things that you're doing. And so as my outro tune, is there anything that your handles where people can find you, where they can get the book? I think you really need to promote that. Look, let's put all the books up so everybody can see them. Look, there's Compatible Minds, which I'm reading with my bookmark dangling down at the bottom. This is Healthy Love, which is a book of poems. The poems in here are actually quite very beautiful, and what I like is that people could be misconstrued thinking that both books were written by a woman simply for the fact that we've been socially conditioned to think that men cannot be romantic. But Stephen has definitely proven in these two books that he's got a very romantic way. Then you've got Incarcerated JA. So where can people who are listening find these amazing books?
Find them on my website,
Mhm.
StephenGrahamProjects.com. stephengraham.com,
Okay.
or they can Stephen with a PH, or they can all go to my Instagram, which is again Stephen Graham Projects at Stephen Graham Projects, and then the link on the Instagram they can click on that.
And click on and get the book. Yeah, definitely. And the books came quite quickly actually. And so, as I've said, I just wanted to say a massive thank you for you blessing my energy, my space, the Love, Art and Inspiration Show, which is exactly what this is about. I would go as far as to say that you've encompassed the title of the show in so many levels, and I really do thank you. I appreciate, because it was such short notice and you agreed to do it. I mean it from my heart. You talk about heart to heart feelings. Thank you so much for gracing me, blessing me with your energy. And the out song that I'd like to play, because I think you're shining bright, you're moving with the light. So this is the last song now that I'm gonna play. Can we do another tune before we come out? So this is the last song that I'm gonna play, and I just want everybody to listen to this because I think it is so beautiful. And I want everybody to listen to Shine. And this is Amjad unabashedly wishing you love and light infinitely. As always, get creative and let art be your becoming. Peace.
Banani, I'm no circus monkey. It's crazy. No Satan can drown us with wavy. Too small to be 4x4 cases. Guess that's all a part of what made me shine.
Obviously, I have to come back and look up so you lot can just wind down, right?
Thanks, Desmond, for saying so long. And tell Shana.
Yeah, because I know this equipment, you can't rush taking this equipment, so I just go and do it and come back in like half an hour.
Cause you were born to win. Don't let them make you colorblind.
What happens after? What do I need to do when this song finishes?
No, I'm just gonna stop it.
Seen so many come and go.
I'm just gonna stop it, right?
Huh?
I'm just gonna stop recording, I think.
We're gonna stop the recording now.
No, I mean after the song.
After the song, okay. Because I think the song's really powerful.
The world can be toxic, especially when your skin look like chocolate. Be careful of branches and olive, and don't watch the sun for your solar sake. Shine. Miami said shine your light, so shine on all of them. You gotta shine. So don't let them make you colorblind. You gotta shine on all of them. Naomi said to shine your light, so shine on all of them. You were born to win. Don't let them make you colorblind. And I'll adore your skin like the fire in my soul. Burn the flame, make me whole. See, I don't know where I've been. I'm gonna let
But this song, it's a beautiful song. I love it. Love it.
this part within. So
I'll stop it at a certain point, but there's one part that I really want the listeners to hear, and then I'll stop it.
Vanessa, will you help me sing?